Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. We're following the developments in Egypt, and on the line with us is an advisor to the U.S. Congress, Walid Phares. His latest book is The Coming Revolution: Struggle for Freedom in the Middle East. Welcome to Newsmax again, Walid.
Thank you very much for having me.
First, if you would, please tell us why the United States should be concerned about the demonstrations and violence in Egypt, and what's at stake for us there.
Oh, absolutely. Egypt is an ally to the United States in the war on terror. But at the same time, Egypt has been governed by an authoritarian regime. It has posed an issue of human rights. And probably the most important in what's happening today in these mass demonstrations is who is, at the end of the day, going to be the winner in Egypt. Certainly we see a confrontation between the regime's security forces that are very strong in the army, on the one hand, and these large masses, mostly of youth and of NGOs, but also backed by the forces of the Muslim Brotherhood. The main concern in the United States is that if the opposition win, and we don't have a partner in civil society, people who are for democracy, and the Muslim Brotherhood are the ones who take over, that's only an if, then we're going to see Egypt shifting away from the relationship with the free world and actually connecting with the forces of jihadism in the region. But at the same time, if Mubarak doesn't make concessions and engages with the democracy forces in Egypt, isolating the Muslim Brotherhood, we may see a collapse of the government in Egypt and chaos aftermath.
Along those lines, why is the U.S. so reluctant to encourage the pro-democracy movement in Egypt?
I don't know. This U.S. administration has been hesitant for, many other cases. We saw, for example, in June of 2009, we discussed it on Newsmax, when there was 1.5 million people in the streets of Tehran. The administration and the president at the time did not really support them, as President Reagan would have supported the solidarity movement in Poland during the Cold War. And with regard to Tunisia and Egypt, what is happening is that the classical position of the United States is that Egypt is an ally. On the other hand, there is a push from within the administration by some advisors, I would say, who would encourage a partnership with the Muslim Brotherhood. So all of that has resulted in some sort of hesitation, and hesitation strategically is very dangerous in these situations.
Walid, what's the worst-case scenario here?
Worst-case scenario is an uprising which will topple Mubarak and bring in the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt will shift completely and become an Islamist, jihadist state. Another difficult scenario would be nobody would win, and we're going to have a protracted struggle between the opposition and the Egyptian security forces, and that will obviously, either scenario, have an implication on the peace process between Israel and Egypt, and will have strategic implications on issues that has to do with the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, the role of Iran in the region. I really would like to see Washington being very proactive, energetic, putting pressure on Mubarak on the one hand, opening up to the real partners, not the Muslim Brotherhood, but civil society, secular, democratic movements in Egypt now, not to wait too long.
The New York Times says analysis of WikiLeaks cables shows that U.S.-Egypt relations warmed up after President Obama took office because he backed off of the Bush administration's push for spreading democracy and human rights in the Mideast. But where does that leave us now?
That's exactly the reason for why we see all of this. Intellectuals in the Arab and Muslim world, those who were hoping that under the Bush years there would have been a much greater push for democracy, a much greater partnership with civil society. Under the Obama administration, unfortunately, we saw an abandonment of these youth, of these women, of these minorities, of these NGOs, of these cab drivers in Iran, in Lebanon, in Egypt, in Algeria, and in many other places. And the response today is that the youth is rising, even without leaders, even without connections to the West. They are the ones pushing against the authoritarians, but unfortunately, those who may take advantage and intercept that revolution may be for a while the Islamists and the jihadists. But it's going to be long. This is not going to be ended in an overnight operation. We are seeing the transformation of the Middle East, and we'll have to wait and see how far, how long would that go.
Walid, are you at all concerned that jihadists, perhaps Iran, could take advantage of the unrest and bring Islamic fundamentalist governments into power?
That's exactly what the Iranian strategic agenda is all about. They are pushing through their media and through the media of their allies to basically bring down the state system as we know it in the Arab world, but not to replace it with democracy, of course, because that will be gone as well, but with like-minded jihadists in various areas of the region. So Iran is taking advantage of us withdrawing from the region and abandoning the democracy forces.
And finally, commodity guru Jim Rogers is predicting oil prices to shoot up again to $200 a barrel. Do you think this chaos in Egypt might expedite that?
It may. Actually, what is happening at a regional scale is an offensive by the hardcore radicals. They do want an oil crisis. They do want also a breaking of the encirclement of Iran. If the oil producers of the Gulf would basically go in chaos or are hesitant or they increase the price, then the ones who are going to take advantage are the Iranians. And the Iranians will make more cash. That's exactly what they want to do because they too are afraid of revolutions taking place inside their country but against their own regime.
Mideast expert Walid Phares, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.